Your cells are aging right now, not slowly over years, but actively at this very moment. Inside every cell in your body, there are tiny structures called mitochondria that are deciding whether to produce clean energy or generate oxidative damage. Your DNA is accumulating microscopic errors, your proteins are becoming slightly less efficient, and your body's repair mechanisms are working overtime to fix damage that's accumulating faster than they can handle. The supplement industry is worth over $150 billion globally, and most of it is built on hope rather than evidence. Walk into any pharmacy and you'll see hundreds of bottles promising longer life, better health, and protected organs. The problem is that 95% of these supplements have never been proven to extend lifespan in humans. They might move a biomarker, they might show promise in a petri dish or in mice, but extending actual human life, almost none of them do it. What I'm going to show you in the next 20 minutes are the 3 supplements that have the strongest evidence for actually slowing biological aging and extending health span. Not based on marketing claims or influencer testimonials, but based on what the research actually demonstrates. And more importantly, I'm going to explain exactly how each one works inside your body so you understand the mechanism, not just the claim. Hi, I'm Dr. Alex. I'm an emergency medicine doctor, and after nearly 10 years working in AANDE, I've seen what happens when preventable aging-related diseases aren't prevented. I've treated the strokes, the heart attacks, the organ failures, and the metabolic breakdowns that could have been avoided if someone had the right information 10 or 20 years earlier. My goal now is to help people avoid those outcomes in the first place and live longer, healthier lives with the independence and quality they deserve. Now, before we go any further, I want to make you a promise. I promise to keep creating the most helpful, scientifically grounded videos I possibly can to help you live longer and prevent the diseases I see in the emergency department every single day. All I ask in return is that you give this fairly new channel a chance and hit the subscribe button. If you get to the end of this video and you don't think it was worth your time, or you haven't learned something genuinely useful, then feel free to unsubscribe. No hard feelings whatsoever. But if you give me your time and attention, I'll give you everything I've learned from over a decade in medicine and from reviewing thousands of research papers on longevity. So please help me out. Hit that subscribe button to help this channel reach more people like you. And let's continue. Before we talk about specific supplements, we need to understand what aging actually is at the cellular level. Because if you don't understand the mechanism, you can't evaluate whether something actually works or whether it's just clever marketing. Aging isn't one process, it's the accumulation of 9 distinct types of cellular and molecular damage. These are called the hallmarks of aging, and they were defined by researchers after decades of studying why organisms grow old. The 9 hallmarks are genomic instability, telomere shortening, epigenetic changes, loss of protein quality control, mitochondrial dysfunction, cellular senescence, stem cell exhaustion, altered cellular communication, and chronic inflammation. Now, you don't need to memorize those 9. What you need to understand is that aging happens when your body's repair systems can't keep up with the damage being created. Think of it like a house. When you're young, you have a full maintenance crew that fixes problems as soon as they appear. A leak gets patched immediately, a crack gets filled, the paint gets touched up, but as you age, that maintenance crew gets smaller and slower. Problems start accumulating faster than they can be fixed. Small issues compound into structural damage. That's biological aging. The reason most supplements don't work for longevity is that they don't actually address any of these core aging mechanisms. They might reduce inflammation temporarily, they might provide antioxidants that mop up some free radicals, but they don't fundamentally change how your cells age. They're not repairing the damage accumulation, they're just treating symptoms. What makes a supplement genuinely useful for longevity is that it has to interact with one or more of these core aging pathways in a way that slows down the damage or speeds up the repair. And crucially, this has to be demonstrated in actual organisms living longer, not just biomarkers improving on a blood test. Let me give you the framework for evaluating any longevity claim. There are 4 levels of evidence, and most supplements never make it past level 1 or 2. Level 1 is in vitro evidence. That means the supplement was tested in cells in a laboratory dish. Researchers might show that it protects cells from oxidative stress or reduces cellular senescence markers. This is interesting, but it tells us almost nothing about whether it works in a living human body. The jump from a petri dish to a person is enormous. Level 2 is animal evidence. The supplement extends lifespan in worms, flies, or mice. This is better than level 1, but there's a critical problem. Mice are not humans, their metabolism is different, their lifespan is different, and most importantly, interventions that work in mice often fail completely when tested in people. Level 3 is human biomarker evidence. The supplement improves measurable health markers in humans, such as reducing inflammation, improving insulin sensitivity, or lowering oxidative stress. This is good evidence that something is happening in the body, but it's not proof of lifespan extension. Biomarkers can improve without translating into more years of life. Level 4 is human longevity evidence. This is the gold standard, and it's vanishingly rare. It means we have data showing that people who take this supplement live measurably longer or have significantly delayed onset of aging-related diseases. This is incredibly hard to prove because you'd need studies following thousands of people for decades, and most supplement companies aren't willing to fund that kind of research. The 3 supplements I'm about to discuss all have level 3 evidence at minimum, and in some cases we have strong level 2 evidence suggesting genuine lifespan extension potential. More importantly, they each target specific aging mechanisms that we know are central to how humans age. Now here's what's critical to understand about supplements and aging. No supplement is going to add 20 years to your life. That's fantasy. What a good longevity supplement does is compress morbidity. That means it reduces the number of years you spend sick and disabled at the end of life. Instead of declining slowly for 15 years, you might decline for 5 years. Instead of losing independence at 70, you maintain it until 80. That's the realistic goal, and it's worth pursuing. The other thing you need to know is that supplements work in the context of your overall health status. If you're eating processed food, not exercising, sleeping poorly, and chronically stressed, no supplement is going to rescue you. Think of supplements as the final 10 to 15% of optimization once the fundamentals are in place. They're performance enhancers for an already well-maintained system, not rescue medications for a broken one. Supplement 1. Omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA. The first supplement that has genuine evidence for longevity is omega-3 fatty acids, specifically the long-chain forms called EPA and DHA that come from fish oil or algae oil. Here's the mechanism. Your cell membranes are made of fatty acids. These membranes are not static structures, they're fluid, dynamic environments that control what gets into and out of your cells. When your membranes are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, they become more fluid and more responsive. This improves cellular signaling, reduces chronic inflammation, and protects against oxidative damage. The reason omega-3s matter for aging is that they directly address several of the hallmarks we talked about earlier. They reduce chronic inflammation, which is one of the primary drivers of aging-related disease. They protect telomeres, the protective caps on the ends of your chromosomes that shorten as you age. And they improve mitochondrial function, which means your cells produce energy more efficiently with less oxidative damage. The evidence for omega-3s is unusually strong. Multiple large studies have shown that higher blood levels of omega-3 fatty acids are associated with longer lifespan. One study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition followed over 2,000 adults for 16 years. And found that those with the highest omega-3 levels lived an average of 2.2 years longer than those with the lowest levels. That might not sound dramatic, but for a single dietary intervention, it's significant. More importantly, omega-3s reduce the risk of the diseases that kill most people. They lower cardiovascular disease risk by 15 to 20%. They reduce the rate of cognitive decline. They decrease chronic inflammation measured by markers like C-reactive protein. And they improve insulin sensitivity, which protects against metabolic dysfunction. The dosing matters here. Most people don't get enough omega-3s from diet alone unless they're eating fatty fish multiple times per week. The research suggests that you want a combined EPA and DHA intake of 1 to 2 grams per day for longevity benefits. That's higher than what most people get from food. You can achieve this with fish oil supplements, krill oil, or if you're plant-based, algae-derived omega-3s. The source matters less than the dose of EPA and DHA. One important note about omega-3s and bleeding. There's a persistent myth that omega-3 supplements increase bleeding risk, particularly if you're on blood thinners. The research does not support this concern at doses up to 3 grams per day. Multiple studies have tested this specifically, and the effect on bleeding time is minimal to non-existent. That said, if you're on anticoagulant medication, it's sensible to discuss supplementation with your doctor. Not because there's strong evidence of harm, but because it's the responsible thing to do when combining interventions. Supplement 2. Magnesium. The second supplement with strong longevity evidence is magnesium. This is one of the most underappreciated nutrients in health and aging, partly because deficiency is incredibly common, and partly because the benefits are so broad that people assume the claims are exaggerated. Magnesium is a cofactor in over 300 enzymatic reactions in your body. That means hundreds of critical biological processes depend on having adequate magnesium available. These include DNA repair, protein synthesis, energy production in mitochondria, regulation of blood pressure, control of blood sugar, and maintenance of electrical activity in your heart and nervous system. Here's the aging connection. When magnesium levels are low, all of these processes become less efficient. Your DNA accumulates more errors because repair enzymes can't function properly. Your mitochondria produce less energy and more oxidative damage. Your insulin sensitivity decreases, which accelerates metabolic aging, and your blood vessels become stiffer, which increases cardiovascular risk. The evidence for magnesium and longevity comes from large population studies. Research published in the Journal of Nutrition followed over 3,000 adults for more than a decade and found that higher dietary magnesium intake was associated with significantly lower all-cause mortality. People in the highest intake group had a 30 to 40% lower risk of death during the study period compared to those in the lowest intake group. Magnesium also specifically protects against the diseases of aging. It reduces blood pressure in people with hypertension. It improves insulin sensitivity and lowers the risk of type 2 diabetes. It reduces the frequency of irregular heart rhythms, and it appears to protect against cognitive decline, though the mechanisms there are still being worked out. The problem is that most people don't get enough magnesium from their diet. The recommended daily intake is 310 to 420 milligrams, depending on age and sex. But studies suggest that nearly half of adults consume less than that. Modern diets tend to be low in magnesium-rich foods like leafy greens, nuts, seeds, and whole grains. And certain factors accelerate magnesium loss, including chronic stress, high alcohol intake, and some medications like diuretics and proton pump inhibitors. Supplementation makes sense for most people over 45. The effective dose is typically 200 to 400 milligrams per day, taken in a well-absorbed form like magnesium glycinate, magnesium citrate, or magnesium malate. Avoid magnesium oxide, which is poorly absorbed and mostly just acts as a laxative. One caution about magnesium supplementation. If you have kidney disease or impaired kidney function, you need to be careful with magnesium supplements because your kidneys may not excrete excess magnesium properly. This can lead to dangerous elevations in blood magnesium levels. So if you have any kidney concerns, discuss supplementation with your doctor before starting. Supplement 3, vitamin D3. The third supplement with strong longevity evidence is vitamin D3. This one is probably the least controversial on the list because vitamin D deficiency is so well documented and the consequences are so clear. Vitamin D is not actually a vitamin in the traditional sense. It's a hormone precursor. When you take vitamin D3, it gets converted in your liver and kidneys into calcitriol, which is the active hormonal form. Calcitriol binds to vitamin D receptors that exist in nearly every cell type in your body. These receptors regulate gene expression, which means vitamin D directly influences which genes are turned on and off in your cells. The aging connection is multifaceted. Vitamin D regulates calcium metabolism and bone density, which is critical for preventing osteoporosis and fractures in older age. It modulates immune function, which helps prevent infections and may reduce autoimmune diseases. It influences cell growth and differentiation, which affects cancer risk. And it regulates inflammation and vascular function, which impacts cardiovascular health. The evidence for vitamin D and longevity is strong but complex. Multiple studies have shown that people with higher vitamin D levels live longer and have lower rates of aging-related diseases. A large meta-analysis published in the British Medical Journal analysed data from over 70,000 participants and found that vitamin D supplementation reduced all-cause mortality by approximately 7%. That might seem small, but at a population level, it's substantial. More importantly, vitamin D deficiency is incredibly common, particularly in people over 50 and anyone living in northern latitudes or spending most of their time indoors. Studies suggest that anywhere from 40 to 70% of adults have insufficient vitamin D levels, defined as blood levels below 30 nanograms per milliliter. The deficiency happens for several reasons. As you age, your skin becomes less efficient at producing vitamin D from sunlight. Older adults also tend to spend less time outdoors, and very few foods contain meaningful amounts of vitamin D naturally. You'd have to eat fatty fish every single day to get adequate vitamin D from diet alone, which most people don't do. Supplementation is straightforward. Most people benefit from 1,000 to 2,000 IU of vitamin D3 daily, though some people need higher doses to reach optimal blood levels. The only way to know for certain is to get your vitamin D level tested with a 25-hydroxyvitamin D blood test. You're aiming for a level between 40 and 60 nanograms per milliliter for optimal health. Vitamin D3 is the form you want, not vitamin D2. D3 is more effective at raising blood levels and maintaining them, and because vitamin D is fat-soluble, it's absorbed better when taken with a meal that contains some fat. One important point about vitamin D toxicity: it's been overhyped. Vitamin D toxicity is real, but extremely rare. It typically doesn't happen unless you're taking massive doses, usually above 10,000 IU per day, for months. At the doses I'm recommending, 1,000 to 2,000 IU daily, toxicity is not a concern. The bigger risk is not taking enough and remaining deficient. If you're finding this information useful and you want to see more evidence-based content on longevity and health, please take a second to subscribe to the channel. It helps me reach more people who are looking for real, science-backed information rather than supplement industry marketing. I don't sell supplements, I'm not affiliated with any companies, I'm just a doctor who wants to help people make informed decisions about their health. So if that resonates with you, hit subscribe and let's keep going. Now that you understand which supplements have genuine evidence and how they work, let's talk about implementation, because knowing what to take is only half the battle. The other half is taking them correctly and in the right context. First, let me be clear about something important. I am not suggesting that supplements replace a healthy diet, regular exercise, quality sleep, or stress management. They don't. Those fundamentals are non-negotiable. If you're not eating whole foods, moving your body regularly, and getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep, no supplement is going to rescue your health. Supplements are exactly what the name implies. They supplement an already solid foundation. They're the final optimization layer, not the base layer. Second, quality matters enormously with supplements. The supplement industry is poorly regulated compared to pharmaceuticals. Products vary wildly in purity, potency, and contamination. You want supplements that have been third-party tested by organizations like NSF International, USP, or Consumer Lab. These certifications verify that what's on the label is actually in the bottle and that the product isn't contaminated with heavy metals or other toxins. For omega-3s, look for products that specify the EPA and DHA content clearly on the label. You want a combined total of 1 to 2 grams of EPA and DHA per day. Some fish oils are more concentrated than others, so you might need 1 capsule or you might need 4, depending on the product. Choose brands that test for mercury, PCBs, and other contaminants. Reputable companies will publish their testing results. For magnesium, choose a well-absorbed form. Magnesium glycinate is excellent because it's gentle on the stomach and well-absorbed. Magnesium citrate is also good, but can have a mild laxative effect in some people, which might actually be beneficial if you tend toward constipation. Start with 200 milligrams per day and increase to 400 milligrams if needed. Take it in the evening because magnesium can have a relaxing effect that helps with sleep. For vitamin D3, 1000 to 2000 IU daily is a good starting point for most people. Take it with a meal that contains fat for better absorption. If you've never had your vitamin D level tested, consider getting it checked after 2 to 3 months of supplementation to see where you land. If you're still below 40 nanograms per milliliter, you may need a higher dose. Third, let's talk about timing and interactions. Omega-3s are best taken with meals because the fat in the meal improves absorption. Magnesium is often better tolerated in the evening and may help with sleep quality. Vitamin D can be taken any time of day but should be with food. None of these supplements have significant negative interactions with each other, so you can take them together if that's more convenient. Fourth, be realistic about timelines. Supplements work slowly. You're not going to feel dramatically different next week. The benefits accumulate over months and years. You're investing in your future health span, not chasing an immediate feeling. That's a fundamentally different mindset than most people bring to supplements, but it's the correct one for longevity interventions. Finally, let me address costs because I know that's a concern for many people. High-quality supplements aren't cheap, but they're also not prohibitively expensive if you're strategic. A month's supply of good omega-3s might cost $20 to $30. Magnesium might be $10 to $15. Vitamin D is usually under $10. So you're looking at roughly $40 to $55 per month for all three. That's less than many people spend on takeaway coffee. It's a question of priorities. If budget is genuinely tight, prioritize vitamin D first because deficiency is so common and the supplement is so inexpensive. Then add magnesium. Then omega-3s if you can. But remember that food is still the foundation. Eating sardines, mackerel, or salmon twice a week gives you omega-3s. Eating leafy greens, nuts, and seeds gives you magnesium. Getting 15 to 20 minutes of midday sun exposure several times a week gives you vitamin D. Supplements fill gaps. They don't replace real food and basic health behaviors. Phase 6. Clinical validation plus bigger picture close. 22 o'clock 24:00. In emergency medicine, I see the end result of poor aging. I see the 70-year-old who can't walk independently because of osteoporosis and muscle loss. I see the 65-year-old with advanced cardiovascular disease who's had multiple stents. I see the cognitive decline and the metabolic failure and the loss of independence that devastates not just the patient but their entire family. What I've learned from a decade in medicine is that most of these outcomes were preventable. Not with miracles or expensive interventions, but with consistent, evidence-based decisions made years or decades earlier. The patients who age well are the ones who understood that health is built slowly through thousands of small choices. They're the ones who prioritized sleep when everyone else was staying up late, who walked when everyone else was sitting, who ate real food when everyone else was eating convenience. And yes, who took supplements that actually had evidence behind them. The 3 supplements I've discussed today are not magic pills. They will not reverse decades of poor health choices. But if you're already doing the fundamentals right, eating well, moving regularly, managing stress, sleeping adequately, then these supplements represent the best additional interventions we have based on current evidence. They address core aging mechanisms, they have data in humans, and they're safe when used appropriately. Longevity is not about adding endless years to a life spent in decline. It's about compressing the period of disability and extending the years of vitality, independence, and engagement. It's about being the 75-year-old who still travels, who still plays with grandchildren, who still contributes to the world. That's the goal, and every evidence-based intervention we layer on top of solid fundamentals moves us closer to that outcome. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe to the channel. I'm committed to creating the most scientifically accurate, clinically grounded content I can to help you live longer and healthier. No gimmicks, no miracle cures, just evidence. And if you know someone who's confused about supplements or looking for real information on longevity, Share this video with them. The more people who have access to good information, the better. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.